One of the big stories, Eddie Alvarez's win over Justin Gaethje, and that got me thinking of Dustin Poirier and where he goes from here. And of course, Eddie Alvarez spoke about Dustin, so wanted to check in with the Diamond and see what he thought about it all and what's next for him. And I do believe he is joining us via the magic of Skype. Dustin, are you there?
Yeah, what's going on, man?
Hey, Dustin, how are you? Thank you very much for joining us. I'm assuming you watched that fight on Saturday?
Of course, man. It was a great fight. Good card.
So what did you think of Eddie's performance? If you were to assess it, was he the guy that you thought was going to win? Did you think that he would win that way?
You know, as the fight was getting closer, I kept going back and forth. I thought Justin was going to win. Then a week later, I would think Eddie's going to win. So it was really a coin toss to me. I thought it was going to be a much different fight, but I thought they were going to brawl, and whoever landed flush, first was going to win. It was a coin toss, I thought, but Eddie showed his skills, and he's a veteran, man. He fought smart. I'm sure they worked a lot on the game plan to go to the body, and he looked really good.
Was it a bit annoying for you to watch that fight because that's the fight? You wanted to fight Eddie, you wanted to get the rematch. You were upset when they made it. Like what were the emotions as you're watching that?
Yeah, I was pumped up. It was a great fight, but I feel like I could beat both of those guys. Eddie fought a great fight, but make no mistake, it's not that hard to look like a decent striker when you're fighting a guy who doesn't move. If you move in and out, throw shots and use angles, and the guy's feet are planted, you look a lot better. Eddie couldn't spell box when we fought in Dallas, much less, exchange with me in the open and move around like that. But it's not hard to look great against a guy who's not moving a lot.
Okay, so you're not one who's going to say, "Oh, Eddie's gotten better," or "He's back to the old Eddie," or all that stuff. You think that? Yeah.
Listen, that is the old Eddie. Eddie hasn't changed in 10 years. He's fought that way, and I'll give it to him. He said on Twitter and in social media that he was far from out in the fight versus me, and that's true. The guy's a dog and a warrior. He's never out of a fight. That's true.
Is it fair to say, I feel like it's a bit of a silly question, but I have to ask it anyway. Is it fair to say that that's who you want next? You want to fight the guy again? You want that rematch? You want to actually beat him conclusively?
100%. I felt like that's what should have happened before he got the tough gig. That's what should have happened. I was winning the fight. Some foul stuff happened. We should have ran it back. He should have been rewarded with a TV show and another big fight. But this isn't the fair business. It's a fight business. So you just keep rolling.
Have you ever been given a specific reason as to why they didn't just rematch? I mean, you guys fought like 2 weeks apart here, so it's not like, the timing was off. Did you ever get any explanation about that?
I think originally the UFC had a different route they wanted to go with that season of TUF, and some stuff fell through. And they made a choice last minute to keep the thing together, and they used Eddie and Gaethje. I don't know exactly why. I was never given an exact reason, but it was something to those, to that line.
Do you get the feeling that Eddie wants to fight you again, or do you get the opposite feeling?
I mean, I don't think the guy wants to fight me. He can say what he wants to say. His coaches can say, that they wanted the fight. Originally, we both agreed, supposedly I heard he agreed to fight me in October in Vegas. And that's what I was kind of starting to get prepared for. That's why I went. That's why my training camp for Pettis was 13 weeks, because I went out to Florida 8 weeks thinking that before that October fight, thinking that I was fighting then, and it got moved 5 weeks later against Pettis. So, the wheels were in motion and stuff was happening. I thought we were fighting in October. Go ahead. What's that?
No, go ahead, please.
He changes his game, and the same thing's going to happen. I'm going to finesse him. I'm going to touch him up, make him look slow, and I'm going to beat him up again.
So last week he was on the program, and I asked him about the possibility of fighting you next. I just want to play the clip quickly and get your response. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, I haven't heard it.
Okay, here we go. Here's Eddie Alvarez talking about Dustin Poirier last week on the MMA.
When I assessed it myself as like a fan that took the fighter outside of it, I sincerely feel like the guy fucking quit. And I think the UFC knows that, Herb Dean knows that, and they made him pay for it. And he's mad about it. but there's nothing he can do about it because it's over. But he's angry that he.
So what do you think? He says that you quit and you're mad that you quit after the fact.
That's cute. I'm not a quitter, man. I mean, look at my history. I don't know what to say about it, but if he has to tell himself that to make him feel good about the 10 minutes or the 9 minutes and 30 seconds he got his ass whipped, whatever, you know. The crazy thing is, I grew up looking up to Eddie, man. He was a big name fighting out in Japan, and HD Net used to do specials on him and stuff. And I was a young fighter then, and I liked the guy. And now still I respect him as a fighter. He's a strong fighter and has a lot of heart. But as a person, he's a bitch, man. He's talking shit. When I stood up for him in the heat of the moment, I thought maybe in the heat of the moment it was accidents. And now I've gone back and I've watched the fight as a fan, like he said. And I think it was on purpose. I think it was a veteran move. He knew he was going out of that fight, and he saw an opportunity to land a strike on a guy and did it. I think he knew exactly what he was doing. So he quit. I've never quit anything in my life. I'm a fighter, man. That's ridiculous. Come on.
You think that he was looking for a way out? He was looking to do something and hoping that it would kind of work out the way it did.
Yeah, I mean, he was on his way to losing that fight, and he got a no contest on his record instead of an L. That's what happened. Yeah, man. Fuck Eddie. Fight me 5 rounds then, you know? Let's do it 5 rounds and see who quits. Let's stop talking. Let's just fight. That's what should have happened anyway.
Since Saturday night, have you or your management reached out to the UFC? Do you have any sense as to whether or not they're interested in booking this fight again?
I think this fight makes sense if me and Eddie had no history. It makes sense even more now that we have history. So fans want to see it. I want to do it again. I'm not so sure about him.
Okay. Yeah, he was going to.
I hope the guy's healthy. I hope the guy's healthy. I know he has a family and kids. I hope everything's all right with him. So heal up and let's do it again.
I feel, and I agree with you 100%. I feel like even like from a ranking standpoint, I saw some fans say to me like it's a step back for Eddie. I really don't feel like that's the case. I feel like this actually makes sense. And then when you add to it the backstory, the fact that you fought already and that it ended somewhat controversially, it seems like a no-brainer to me. Yet I don't know. I actually sincerely don't know if they're going to do it, which kind of is a head scratcher. Like this is like the perfect. I mean, it just kind of all came together. You just won in a main event. It's bizarre to me that it's not just like the natural. Of course, we're going to do this fight.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Okay, you're confident about that. Do you feel like you've turned the corner since the Pettis fight? To me, it felt for 2 things. Like you won in a main event, but also being back in Virginia. You remember Virginia was where you fought the Korean Zombie, and I felt like you sort of exercise those demons and have now turned that corner that you've been looking to turn for a long time. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, not so much in just the whole Virginia thing and the main event thing, just in my fighting career, man. That was my 21st fight with the company. I've said it 1,000 times. I'm a father now. I look at this stuff differently, and I'm just fighting smarter and I'm having fun. Everybody has a stride they hit, when they start getting to their peak, and everybody, it's a different age. And right now I feel like I'm at the beginning of that. I just feel good. I feel dangerous. I'm confident. Let's go, man. I'm going to be the world champion next year.
This time next year, you're the champ.
This time next year, I'm wearing gold, man.
Wow. Are you worried a bit about the division? Like for a guy who has lofty dreams and aspirations, the division is tied up. You know, Conor's not defending his belt anytime soon. You have an interim champion who's waiting on him. It has to be a little frustrating for a lightweight who's up there in the rankings, no?
Yeah, but me and Eddie are going to fight, and then the rest of the division is going to kind of play itself out in that time. In the meantime, we got another big fight with Khabib and Edson coming up. So everything's going to fall in perfect place, man. I have confidence.
Do you want to fight Eddie for the Violent Championship of the World? Are you down to fight that kind of fight, or is that not smart at this point in your career?
I mean, there will be blood for sure, but I'm not going in there and planting my feet and see who's going to fall first. I'm going to go in there and finesse him again.
Right. Fight the smart fight. You don't want to go in there and get brain damage.
Yeah. Right. I want to walk my daughter down the aisle one day and remember all these great times of travel and fights. I'm loving what I do, man. And I will beat Eddie Alvarez.
Can I ask you about the finish against Anthony Pettis? We didn't talk after that. Is that something that you've actually worked on, the body triangle, to actually lead someone, to tap, to squeeze them that hard where you don't have to do anything else and maybe break a rib or something like that? Is that something that you actually work on? And do you feel it? Like, could you feel that something happened to him before he tapped?
No, I didn't feel anything. He was trying to turn into me and the body triangle was on real tight. We got into some weird angles when we were twisting and stuff, but I didn't feel anything pop. But it's something I do in the gym.
You squeeze someone's body that tight, hoping that they tap?
No, not hoping that they tap, just getting top position. And once I mount you with the body triangle, I mean, it's elbows and punches until the ref stops it or the round ends. It's really hard to get out of that once somebody mounts you with a body triangle.
Did you feel like you got your due for that win? Because it kind of just happened and we weren't really sure what happened, on the broadcast, watching at home. Do you feel like it's not as emphatic as like an Ngannou knockout type of thing? Did you? And I think the crowd was a little confused as well. Did you feel like you got, your respect for doing that to Anthony Pettis?
I'm not really sure, man. I don't really play into it that way. I know for sure I was beating him.
Yeah.
And was running away with the fight. And it would have happened sooner or later. So I know I won the fight. I know it wasn't a freak accident and I got lucky or anything like that. I know I won the fight and was beating him.
Alvarez said last week on the show that like beating Pettis, like everyone beats Pettis. Like it's not he's a gatekeeper now. He wasn't impressed. Do you think that that's fair? Is that not fair to Pettis, or do you think that he's kind of right with his assessment of where he's at in his career right now?
I mean, Pettis is a 30-year-old guy who's still very dangerous, I think. And he's going to win many more fights in the UFC. But Eddie's talking like he just blew past the guy. Eddie was hanging on to legs for dear life and trying to get a decision,
Okay, so not as easy as he makes. One last thing I wanted to ask you about. I remember it like it was yesterday. You fighting a young kid named Max Holloway on short notice. I believe it was UFC 143. Who would have thought that he'd turn into what he has turned into, 12 in a row, all that stuff. Are you surprised to see him turn into the champion that he's become, the dominant fighter that he's become?
Yeah, a little bit surprised. He's grown so much as a fighter, man. Dude, beating the guys he's beaten and going on a streak like that's incredible against anybody in the UFC. These are the toughest guys. But beating Pettis, beating Aldo twice. I mean, he's made some huge improvements, and the guy's incredible, man.
Is that a fight?
That's respect to Max Holloway.
I feel like he's 26. He's 145. I think that he'd probably move up to 155 at some point. I'd love to see the fight again between you two. Probably not right now, but his weight cuts look a little rough. Is that something that you think about at all?
If he comes up, I'll never fight at 145 pounds again in my career.
Okay.
If he comes up to 55, for sure. He's young, man, and it could definitely happen again. But it'll be at 155.
Yeah,
for sure.
And that charity, can you tell us, update us on what happened with the charity? You donated your blood-soaked clothes, right? Your shorts and your whole kit to a charity in Louisiana?
A fallen officer's family. I auctioned off the fight kit, and we ended up getting $7,500 for it, and I gave it to his wife and his children. Right across from a high school I went to, a police officer showed up to a call at a gas station, and when he got out of his car, he was shot and killed, and he left behind a wife and 3 daughters, and it just hit home. It's close to home. It's on the streets I grew up on here, and I just thought it was a good thing to try to give back and help the family out a little bit. But from here on out, the fight before that, I auctioned off my kid, and we raised 3,000 meals for people who needed it here in Lafayette, Louisiana. And I'm going to keep this thing going. Every fight, I'm going to auction off my fight kit, and it's going to go to a charity or go straight to somebody who needs it.
Wow, that's amazing. Do you know the name of the person who bought it?
I'm not sure the guy's name, but it was him and his wife. They own a company out in San Antonio, I believe. And I'm going to post it all when he gets it framed and everything. He said he's working on getting it framed, and he's going to put it up in his business.
That's incredible. Good for you. Well done. Last thing, anything, I try, Eddie was supposed to be on the show today, but he's not feeling well. So I was trying to make some magic. It didn't work out. Anything you'd like to say to Mr. Alvarez, Edward, as you like to call him on Twitter?
Edward, get healthy, man. Let's do it. 5 rounds. I didn't quit. You know what happened in there. You knew you were losing. Let's do it. Shut the fuck up and fight.
All right. We'll leave it at that. Thank you, Dustin. Appreciate it. All the best. Hope you get the fight.